Our next speaker is Seth Hall. Seth is the Vice President of Customer Service for Philadelphia Insurance Companies and has over 15 years of service operations experience, primarily focused in the healthcare and property and casualty industries. In this presentation, he will walk us through some of the most common questions about how to capture customer feedback effectively and make it actionable, and discuss the tools and insight you need to build or revitalize your VOC programs. In addition to this, come on up, Seth. In addition to this, I found out that he's an Ironman, and we were talking about the fact that he completed the Hawaii Ironman and was greeted at the finish line by his 2 daughters, which was a nice thing. So, Seth.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Good morning. Good to see everyone. I am happy to be here. I'm very happy to be inside. I actually went for a run this morning at 5:08 a.m. and I was told it was 111 degrees, and I don't think that's normal. I mean, is that normal? 5:08 is 111 degrees out or whatever. So I'm glad to be in an air-conditioned room for certain. I was thinking about this presentation and thinking about you and thinking about the conference and trying in my mind to understand maybe some of the reasons why you are here. And I tried my best to really categorize those for you. So I'd like to sort of test my ability to do that. So let me know how I've done. A little bit of gambling, maybe the market hasn't been doing so well, 401k, you want to fast track that a little bit. What better way than some craps, right? So if you're here for this reason, don't tell anyone from Confirmit, but maybe that's one of the reasons. I took this picture last night. I think I may have spotted a few of you in the crowd up there. I won't tell you who specifically, but maybe that's a reason why you're here, but probably not. I think the reason why most of you are here is you believe this, and this was a study that was actually recently conducted, which I think is pretty powerful. And it basically says that customer experience leaders outperform the market. And it's really powerful if you look at that. So there was a Forrester research study that was done to look at those customer experience leaders, an index score, the top 10 and the bottom 10, and they looked at their stock price relative to the market and the S&P, and the results are staggering. I mean, they're really impressive. I mean, in our business, in our industry, we've always talked about cracking the code on ROI and customer experience and what's sort of the net impact and net effect. I mean, here it is. So for those that are out there beginning the journey and starting to talk about how you can develop that ROI, I mean, here it is. I mean, it really does very clearly state that those investments that you're making in developing a customer experience program or voice of the customer program have real dramatic impact on your earnings or your stock price if you're a publicly traded company. So if you want this information, certainly let me know afterwards. I'd be happy to share with you. There's an easier way to do that, to get it, improve customer experience and customer scores, and that is just phase everything out. I don't know that Confirmit would like that, but just get rid of all your complaints. Don't ask the question and just kind of stick your head in the sand, and things will be great. I'm sure it'll really work out for you. I sort of say that tongue in cheek, but ironically, I put this presentation together, and I couldn't help myself when I saw this. You probably can't see the details. I was in a store literally last week, and they said, help us improve. And I'm sure a lot of you have this walking burden of whenever you're asked for a survey, whether it's on the phone, in email, you feel like you have to fill it out, right? At least I do, because I'm always asking the question, so I have to at least do the surveys. I saw this kiosk, I said, great, I'm going to go over and give them the feedback, which was positive, but a little bit of constructive feedback. And guess what I got? You can't see this, but it basically said, basically in code, just kidding. I didn't want your feedback because our technology, our system doesn't work, so we can't even capture your feedback. So just make sure if you're asking for feedback that the process behind it works, and that's sort of symbolic for what we'll go through. So what I'm going to try to do today in the next 20 minutes or so, I know that there are folks at varying levels of their program. Some are very mature, some are just starting, some are in the middle, just looking for ideas. So hopefully I can give you some insights and tools and techniques no matter where you are in that journey. So just real quickly in terms of the context, I'm not going to spend a lot of time about Philly Insurance. It's a 50-year-old company, done very well for the last 50 years, A++ rated. We were acquired by Tokyo Marine in 2008. And it was sort of a build it and they will come mentality. The business was great. And in 2010, as I mentioned yesterday in the panel, things changed. And I'm sure many of you sort of felt the same or have felt the same over some period of time in the last couple of years. Customer demands were changing. They wanted things differently. The timing was, 48 hours in terms of turning around an email was like, months. So expectations were changing, increasing. Our margins were getting squeezed. People were copying or replicating our products. So we sort of had to look internally and say, we need to do something different. And this is what we did. We said we really need to bring the voice of the customer in-house. We really need to understand our customer base a little bit better, and we need to make sure we're focused on them. We didn't know how to start, but we knew we needed to do it. We knew it wasn't going to be easy, but we started. The problem we were trying to solve is really, bringing that voice inside. We knew that we really weren't capturing it. We were in sort of disparate ways, but we really weren't doing a good job capturing it. We wanted to identify and remove the barriers that were preventing us from sort of that ultimate of customer loyalty, because we were getting some leading indicators that things weren't as good as maybe we thought. And then what we wanted to do is really achieve breakthrough. So we didn't want to just go out and say, well, let's put out some surveys and get some feedback and pat ourselves on the back. We wanted to actually get as close to the silver bullet from our customers as we could. Let them tell us what we need to do next. So we really wanted to make sure it was about getting these breakthroughs. So where do we start from? Probably very similar to where a lot of you have started from. Internal metrics is really all we had. The data that we had that we were capturing was not actionable, and it was very disconnected. So we were doing surveys in some areas. They were coming in via a postcard and claims and online in the call center, but no one was really bridging that or pulling that together. So that was where we started from. The goals of our program were to really make sure we understood what was most important to our customers, because we certainly had a lot of data internally, and sort of understanding how we were doing internally, we understood. We knew that we really didn't know what our customers wanted, what was most important to them. We wanted to add differentiating value to our agents, and we're sort of in a B2B type of environment. We have a little bit of direct to consumer, but primarily B2B. So we wanted to make sure we were having them feel as though this was adding value to their daily job. And then we wanted to translate this information into meaningful improvements. So we didn't want to, again, just take the data in and report out. We actually wanted to turn that into making meaningful and significant improvements in our operations. And then the last piece, which is something that we sort of backed into a little bit, and is very important no matter where you are in your journey, is making sure that it's part of your strategic planning process. I think it was mentioned yesterday, but I think it's a point to really sort of write down. I think a lot of people miss this, and the VOC program can feel somewhat almost too tactical. And I think that you really need to make sure that in whatever mechanism works in your environment, that it's part of the strategic planning process, because these insights, these perceptions, as it was stated yesterday, really should be the blueprint for what you're doing, next year and the year beyond. So our approach, very straightforward. We use the model that Confirmit helped us with, but I think for those that are starting out or sort of midstream, it's certainly a good way to categorize your effort in terms of making sure you have the tools and the processes in place to listen. But I think it's a good sort of gut check to make sure that you have sort of surround sound, that you're not just listening to the people that are giving you the surveys, but you're listening to people, if social media is relevant in your area, that you're listening to those folks, and you're doing your best to get that sort of surround sound viewpoint. You want to make sure you have the tools and the processes to analyze the data that you're getting in, right? And the last thing you want to do is have it be some sort of manual effort. So you want to make sure you have those tools and procedures in place. And then the big thing, I mentioned this yesterday, is this whole idea of action management. Again, regardless of where you are in your journey, if you're just starting, you've got to make sure you have this one nailed. It's the last thing you want is to put the information out there, get the data or the survey responses back and not do anything with it. And it's always a good time, even if you're well advanced and you're far down your path, to make sure that you're really doing a good job in this category of acting and action management. So I had mentioned we had these three sort of issues, and one was disconnected feedback. So I'll sort of use this for the next couple slides to let you know what we did and then how we did it, with the hopes of something triggering an idea or a thought that maybe you might think about doing. So we had the disconnected feedback coming in from lots of different disparate areas in different forms. And so we said, obviously, we need to centralize this feedback. So what we did, and it was small, but we created a voice of the customer team, and we sort of branded the team, and it was very few people, and out of the gates they were doing stuff on the side of their desk for a while, but we created this voice of the customer team. The other thing we wanted to do was really make sure that we had the entire life cycle captured. So we went back and really looked at, okay, from the first point from which a customer can contact us or interact with us, let's make sure we're somehow capturing that all the way through the end when they're actually submitting a claim. Let's make sure that we're capturing that feedback along the way so that we don't have any blind spots, and we're not just asking for feedback on their experience with the contact center rep. We wanted to make sure end to end. And there are a lot of times where if you go back and look at your program, there might be some gaps in that. So I would suggest you really look at that life cycle. The other, and there have been some inferences to this as well, I think in retrospect, one of the things that we did well was we actually had a process for prioritizing all of the information that was coming back. So instead of having sort of this knee-jerk reaction and saying, hey, someone called in and said that they want to eliminate premiums and want to have just free insurance, that we weren't saying, hey, our customer said that, let's give free insurance. So you have to make sure you have some mechanism in place to prioritize all of the feedback or the insights that are coming in. And the other thing that we did that I think is very important, if you're not doing it, I suggest doing it, particularly if you're trying to get the organization to rally around, is make sure you have good recognition programs in place that are centralized. So this did a really nice job. What the VOC program did for us was, before, we were very siloed, and claims was claims, marketing was marketing, service was service. This was the first thing that allowed us to sort of bridge all of those and actually show that the customer experience goes across all of those. So what we could also do was have recognition across all of those. So it really sort of broke down a lot of the barriers that existed, and we used recognition as a nice way to say to everyone in the company, look what someone did in claims or in customer service or in marketing, which we really never had before. Internal metrics. This is something that was a really big aha for me. Very intuitive in retrospect, but we had a lot of metrics, and I've sort of grown up in operations, so I'm very metrics driven. But we had metrics for everything. And when I really took a look at what we were measuring, it was all internal. I mean, all of it. It was, how quickly we were doing something between point A and point B, and we really weren't doing a good job looking at the metrics from a customer's perspective. So what we did was we actually created this metrics that matter program, if you will, and went out, and we have an advisory council, and we asked them that question. We said, what's important to you? I mean, is it more important that we do something better or fast, or is it good to have the combination, or how quickly should we answer the phone, or how quickly should we get back to you with emails? And we completely changed the way we measure things. And what we've actually done now is we have, at the executive management meeting, I present, basically, I wear two hats. One is the voice of the customer data, and the other is sort of the internal customer service metrics. So before, I was using the internal customer service metrics to represent what our customer base was saying, and I was completely missing the mark. And now what we have is sort of this, the internal metrics that show how we're doing and the mechanics, and is the process sound, or things in control. but then I can deck that up against what the customer's perception is and how they're really feeling about things, and it's been terrific.